The first time Eliza Hart lit the lamp in the east window, her husband crossed the room so quickly that the chair behind him fell. The crash made her turn. Caleb Mercer stood near the kitchen table, one hand pressed flat against the wood. He had been calm through everything else. Calm when she stepped from the stagecoach carrying one small suitcase. Calm when the preacher called them husband and wife. Calm when she admitted she had nowhere to return to if their arrangement failed. But now he was staring at that small flame as if it had opened a door that should have stayed closed. "Put it out." His voice was quiet. That frightened her more than if he had shouted. Eliza looked from him to the lamp. Outside, evening had swallowed the Wyoming valley. Snow moved across the empty fields in thin white lines. Beyond the glass stood nothing but a frozen road, dark hills, and miles of land without another house. "It's only a lamp," she said. Caleb did not answer. The flame trembled behind the glass. Then, far beyond the fence, a light appeared on the ridge. Once, twice, and disappeared. Caleb went still, not surprised, not confused. He had been waiting for it. Eliza slowly lowered her hand from the lamp. Who was that? For several seconds only the wind answered. Then Caleb crossed the room and extinguished the flame himself. Someone who should have stopped waiting a long time ago. He walked away before she could ask anything else. But that night Eliza understood something. The lonely rancher she had married was not afraid of darkness. He was afraid that someone might see the light. And 3 weeks earlier, when her train first crossed the frozen plains, she had known nothing about the empty east window, or the promise that had kept Caleb Mercer alone for 7 years. Eliza had arrived in Willow Creek with $32, 2 dresses, and a letter folded inside her coat. She had read the letter so many times that the paper had softened at the edges. Caleb Mercer, 37, cattle rancher. No children, no debts. Seeking a practical wife willing to live far from town. Practical. That word had convinced her. Not kind, not handsome, not loving. Practical. Love had never kept a roof over anyone's head. At least, not in Eliza's experience. The station was smaller than she expected. One wooden platform. A narrow office. Snow gathered beneath the benches where no one sat. The train pulled away before she saw him. For one terrible moment she thought no one had come. Then a tall man stepped from beside the freight building. Caleb Mercer wore a dark wool coat and a weathered hat. He was broad through the shoulders but not imposing in the way she had imagined. He moved slowly, as though he had learned that rushing rarely improved anything. He stopped several feet from her. "Miss Hart?" "Yes." His eyes moved briefly to her suitcase. "That all?" Heat touched her face. "It's enough." He studied her for a moment. Then he nodded. "I suppose it is." He lifted the suitcase before she could reach for it. No smile, no compliment, no disappointment either. Only action. Eliza followed him toward the wagon. After several steps, Caleb slowed. Not enough to make it obvious. Only enough that she no longer had to hurry. She noticed. She said nothing. The ranch stood almost an hour from town. For most of the journey, neither spoke. The land stretched white beneath a pale sky. Fence posts disappeared into snow. Bare cottonwoods followed the frozen river like dark lines drawn across paper. Eliza kept her hands folded in her lap. Finally, Caleb spoke. "The house is warm." "That's good." "There's food." "Also good." "The roof doesn't leak." She looked at him. "Were you expecting me to ask?" "No." "Then why are you telling me?" He considered the question. "Couldn't think of anything else." For the first time, Eliza almost smiled. Almost. A few minutes passed. Then she asked, "Why did you send for a wife?" His hands tightened slightly around the reins. "Winter." "That isn't an answer." "It is out here." She waited. Caleb looked toward the road. "Winters are long. Work gets harder. House gets quiet. You needed help." "Yes." The answer should have disappointed her. Instead, she appreciated its honesty. "And you?" he asked. "Why did you answer?" Eliza looked toward the mountains. "My sister married. That a problem?" "No, her husband owns the house where we lived." Caleb understood without asking more. She had become extra space in someone else's life. "I can work," she said. "I know." "You don't know anything about me." "You came all this way in December." He glanced at her. "That tells me something." The ranch appeared near sunset. It was smaller than she expected. A 2-story wooden house stood beside a barn and several fenced pastures. Smoke rose steadily from the chimney. Horses moved near the barn, dark against the snow. It did not look wealthy. It looked maintained. Every fence stood straight. Firewood was stacked beneath the porch roof. The barn doors had been repaired with fresh boards. Nothing was beautiful. Nothing was neglected. Caleb carried her suitcase inside. Warmth reached her first, then silence. The house was clean, but every room seemed unfinished. No pictures, no flowers, no curtains except plain cloth hung over the windows. One wall held several empty nails. Someone had removed things from there. Eliza noticed the east window because it was the only one covered by a heavy wooden shutter. "Does that one open?" "No." "Broken?" "No." He walked upstairs. Eliza watched him go. That was the first question he refused to answer. Her bedroom was at the end of the hall. A fire burned in the small iron stove. Fresh blankets covered the bed. A basin sat beside a pitcher of warm water. Eliza touched the pitcher. "Still hot. You prepared all this?" Caleb stood in the doorway. "Yes. When?" "Before I left." "You thought I'd be cold. You came from a train." It was such a simple answer that she almost missed what it meant. Someone had considered her comfort before she arrived. That had not happened in a long time. "And where will you sleep?" she asked. "Other room." "But tomorrow we're getting married." "Yes." She waited. He seemed to understand. "The arrangement doesn't give me rights you didn't agree to." Eliza looked at him. His expression did not change. "You'll have your room," he continued. "Your own money from the ranch. If spring comes and you want to leave, I'll pay your fare. You would let me go? I'm not buying a prisoner." Then he stepped away. Eliza stood alone beside the warm stove. For the first time since answering his letter, she wondered whether she had been wrong about him. The wedding happened the next afternoon. The preacher arrived with his wife and 2 ranchers who lived several miles south. There were no flowers, no music, only firelight, quiet words, and snow gathering against the windows. When Caleb placed the ring on Eliza's finger, his hand was steady. Hers was not, he noticed. He loosened his grip immediately. That small movement calmed her more than any promise could have. When the preacher told him he could kiss his bride, Caleb looked at her. He did not move. He waited. Eliza gave the smallest nod. Only then did he lean down. The kiss was brief. Careful. When he stepped back, he did not look pleased with himself. He looked relieved that he had not frightened her. Their life began quietly. Caleb woke before sunrise. Eliza learned the ranch through the sounds he left behind. Boots crossing the floor. The front door opening. Wood splitting outside. Horses moving in the barn. He never asked her to cook. But on the 3rd morning, she made bread. When Caleb returned, he stopped inside the doorway. "What?" He looked toward the kitchen. "Smells different." "It's bread." "I know." "Then why are you standing there?" He removed his hat. Forgot houses could smell like that. He ate 4 pieces. Said nothing. The next morning, Eliza found a new sack of flour beside the stove. Caleb never mentioned buying it. She never thanked him. But that evening, she left the largest piece of bread beside his plate. Neither spoke about that either. Days became weeks. Eliza changed small things. She washed the curtains, moved the table closer to the fire, placed dried pine branches inside an old blue jar. Caleb noticed everything, commented on almost nothing. But one evening, she found him standing in the kitchen after supper, looking at the blue jar. "Don't like it?" she asked. "No." "I can remove it?" "I meant no." "I don't dislike it." She folded her arms. "You speak in a difficult way." "I don't speak much." "I noticed." The corner of his mouth moved. Not a smile, but close. The next day, another pine branch appeared in the jar. Eliza knew she had not placed it there. A week later, Eliza tore the sleeve of her winter coat. She left it beside the stove and planned to repair it after supper. The next morning, the tear was gone. The stitching was uneven, large, awkward, but strong. At breakfast, she placed the coat on the table. "You repaired this?" Caleb drank his coffee. "No. There are only 2 people in this house. Could have been the horse." She stared at him. His face remained completely serious. Then she laughed. The sound surprised both of them. Caleb lowered his cup. For several seconds he only watched her. "What?" she asked. "Nothing," but his expression had changed, as if the house had made a sound he had forgotten existed. Then Eliza lit the lamp in the east window, and everything changed. After Caleb extinguished it, he did not speak for the rest of the evening. He checked the doors twice, then stood outside for almost an hour, staring toward the ridge. The next morning, Eliza found tracks beyond the fence. A single horse. The rider had stopped far from the house, then turned back. At breakfast, she asked, "Who came last night?" "No one." "There are tracks. Someone took the wrong road." "And answered the lamp?" Caleb stopped eating. For several seconds, neither moved. Then he stood. "Don't light it again." "That isn't an explanation." "No." He took his coat. At the door, Eliza spoke. "Does someone think you're waiting?" Caleb's hand stopped on the latch, but he left without answering. 2 days later, Eliza went into town. She needed thread, coffee, and lamp oil. At the store, an older woman noticed her ring. "You're Mercer's wife." "Eliza?" The woman smiled. Then her eyes moved toward the lamp oil. The smile disappeared. "He let you use the east window?" Eliza went still. "What happened there?" The woman looked toward the store entrance. "Ask your husband." "I did." "And?" He said nothing. "That sounds like Caleb." The woman wrapped the coffee, then spoke more quietly. 7 years ago, his younger brother left during a storm. "Why?" "No one knows." "Did he come back?" The woman shook her head. "Caleb kept a lamp in that window every night for 3 years. Eliza looked down at the bottle in her hands. "And then?" "One morning, he stopped." That evening, Eliza found Caleb in the barn. He was repairing a saddle strap. She stood near the door. His name was Daniel. The leather stopped moving beneath Caleb's hands. "Who told you?" "No one told me enough." He continued working. "Was he your brother?" "Yes." "Did he leave after an argument?" Caleb's jaw tightened. "Yes." "What did you say?" "Does it matter?" "It matters to you." Silence. Snow tapped softly against the barn roof. Finally, Caleb set the leather aside. "I told him this ranch would be better without him." Eliza said nothing. "He was 19, Caleb continued. "Wanted to leave. I wanted him to stay. We were both too proud to say what we meant. And the lamp. Our mother used it when we were boys. If one of us stayed out after dark, she put it in that window." His eyes moved toward the house. Daniel knew. "You waited for him." "For 3 years." And then stopped. Caleb stood. "Waiting doesn't bring people home." He walked past her. But before he reached the door, Eliza asked, "Then why did someone answer the light?" Caleb stopped. This time he had no answer. The next morning, Caleb found food wrapped beside his gloves. He carried it to the barn. At noon, he discovered a note beneath the cloth. Only 4 words. The note contained only 4 words. "Waiting is not weakness." He read it twice, then folded it and placed it inside his coat. That evening he brought Eliza a small wooden box. "What is it?" "Open it." Inside lay several pieces of colored thread. Blue, green, gold. Eliza touched them carefully. "Where did you get these?" "Town." "You rode 2 hours for thread?" "Needed nails." "Did you buy nails?" A pause. "No." She smiled. This time Caleb smiled too. Only briefly, but fully. Winter deepened. The road disappeared beneath snow. The two of them spent more time together. Eliza read beside the fire. Caleb repaired tools. Sometimes they spoke. Sometimes they did not. But silence no longer felt like distance. One night Caleb placed a small book on the table. "What's this?" "Accounts." "You want me to keep the ranch records?" "You're better with numbers." "How do you know?" "You corrected my feed calculation last week." "You noticed?" "I notice most things." Their eyes held. Neither looked away immediately. That was new. Near the end of January, the light appeared again. This time no lamp burned in the east window. Eliza saw it from upstairs. One flash on the ridge, then another. She called Caleb. He came quickly. They stood together behind the glass. The light appeared a third time. Caleb reached for his coat. "I'm going." "In this weather?" "Yes." "I'm coming." "No." "You don't know who is out there." "That's why you're staying." Eliza stepped between him and the door. For 7 years you've decided everything alone. This isn't your burden. I'm your wife. That doesn't make my past yours. No. She held his gaze. But standing beside you is my choice. Caleb looked at her for a long time, then took a second coat from the hook. They crossed the frozen fields together. The wind strengthened as they climbed. At the top of the ridge stood an old man beside a tired horse. Not Daniel. Caleb slowed. The disappointment on his face lasted only a second, but Eliza saw it. The stranger removed his hat. You Caleb Mercer? Yes. The man reached inside his coat. Caleb's hand moved toward his rifle, then stopped. The stranger held out a letter. Daniel gave me this. The world seemed to narrow. Caleb did not take it. Where is he? The old man looked toward the valley. Dead. The word disappeared into the wind. Eliza felt Caleb go still beside her. When? 5 years ago. Caleb's face changed, not with tears, something quieter, the collapse of hope he had pretended not to carry. He was coming home, the man continued. Got sick before he made it. Asked me to bring this. 5 years? Lost my own family. Lost the letter. Found it again last month. Caleb finally reached for it. His hand shook. They returned home without speaking. Caleb sat at the kitchen table. The letter remained unopened. Hours passed. The fire burned lower. Eliza did not ask him to read it. She only stayed. Finally, Caleb pushed the letter toward her. I can't. You don't have to. I waited 7 years. I know. What if he hated me? Eliza looked toward the shuttered window. Then you'll know. And if he didn't, then you've carried something that was never yours. Caleb stared at the letter, then opened it. The paper was thin, the writing uneven. He read silently, once, then again. His shoulders lowered, not much, only enough for Eliza to see how much weight he had been carrying. What did he say? Caleb looked at her. He said he knew I didn't mean it. His voice broke on the last word. He said he was coming home. Eliza moved beside him. Not touching, not yet. Caleb reached for her hand first. The next morning, Caleb opened the east shutter. Cold sunlight entered the room. Dust moved through the beam. Eliza watched from the kitchen. Do you want the lamp removed? She asked. No. Will you light it tonight? He looked toward the ridge. I don't know. Then at her. But I don't want the window closed anymore. That evening they placed the lamp there together. Not as a signal. Not as a promise to someone who was gone. Only light. For the first time in 7 years, Caleb sat with his back to the window. He did not watch the road. He watched Eliza. Spring arrived slowly. Snow melted from the fields. Water returned to the river. The ranch became louder. Calves in the pasture. Birds beneath the roof. Eliza's footsteps moving through open rooms. One evening she found a train schedule on the table. Beside it lay an envelope. Inside was enough money for the journey east. She looked at Caleb. What is this? You said you wanted a choice. Spring came. Yes. And you want me to leave? His eyes lowered. No. The answer came quickly. More quickly than anything he had ever said. But I promised. Eliza held the envelope. If I stay, what happens? You keep half the ranch accounts. Only half? All. And the east window? You put whatever you want in it. She waited. Caleb understood there was more. He stood. If you stay, his voice slowed. It won't be because the winter trapped you here. No. And not because you need a house. No. He stepped closer. Then stay because... The words failed him. Eliza watched him try. Finally, he said, because when you leave a room, I wait for you to come back. Nothing more. No grand promise. No perfect speech. Only the truth. Eliza placed the train money back on the table. I spent most of my life living where people had room for me. Caleb said nothing. This is the first place where someone made room before I arrived. Her eyes moved toward the warm bedroom upstairs. The flower beside the stove. The badly repaired coat. The colored thread. The open east window. I'm staying. Caleb's breath left slowly. You're sure? No. That surprised him. Eliza smiled. But I'm choosing it. She stepped closer. This time, neither waited for permission because both already knew. When Caleb kissed her, it was not careful from fear. It was gentle from choice. A year later, travelers passing through the valley began using the Mercer house as a guide. They said, "Follow the eastern ridge until you see the lamp." It burned every night. Not because anyone was lost. Not because Caleb was waiting for the past to return. The light meant something different now. There was bread in the kitchen, 2 coats beside the door, colored curtains in the windows, laughter where silence had lived. And on cold evenings, Caleb still checked the eastern road. But only once. Then he returned to the fire, to the woman reading beside it, to the life neither of them had expected. The house had not saved them. They had done something quieter. They had made room for each other. And sometimes that is what home really is. Not the place where someone waits forever for the people who left, the place where, at last, someone is glad you stayed. If this story stayed with you, leave a like and share it with someone who knows that opening your heart does not erase the past. It only gives the light somewhere new to shine. There is always another story waiting.